A lawyer's prorevenge on a landlord. Landlords are awful, generally speaking. Everybody knows that. But if you think residential landlords are bad, they're nothing compared to commercial landlords. Landlords of commercial buildings are some of the cruelest, nastiest people I've ever come across. This revenge tale is about a commercial landlord and how I dealt with him. Back in the 90s, sometimes I'd go for lunch at this restaurant in the basement of our building. The place was called The Vault because it had a massive bank vault that had always been there, dating back to days before the place was turned into the restaurant. The vault was so huge that they could sit a couple of tables in there, and you could eat dinner surrounded by rows of old gleaming safe deposit boxes. One day I was there for lunch and the owner took me aside. "The landlord's driving me nuts," he said. "The landlord drives everyone nuts." I was a subtenant in the same building, sharing a space with an older lawyer, Aaron, and the landlord was always causing us trouble. I had already had a few run-ins with him and we hated each other on sight. In most jurisdictions, commercial landlords don't need court orders to get you out. Instead, they just change the locks and you find out about it when you show up and your key doesn't work. Every time our landlord had a dispute with anyone, which was often, he'd always threaten to change the locks. He keeps demanding all this stuff for extra rent. And it's really weird because a lot of it's really old. The restaurant owner showed me a letter the landlord had served him earlier that day. I looked over the demand and read a list of expenses for snow removal and parking lot repair and common area flooring and all kinds of crap going back years. I read it all the way to the end, and there it was. The usual clause saying he was going to change the locks if the tenant didn't pay this and do that. From the wording of the demand, it looks like you've been fighting a while. Why did you wait before consulting a lawyer? I asked one of the lawyers I know and he said it's hopeless. He told me the lawyer's name. It was a guy I knew with a crappy real estate practice who'd resorted to taking little legal aid cases to keep the lights on when the market tanked in '89. "You do something to make the landlord hate you?" I asked, because this is a bit over the top, even for our butthole landlord. He knows I'm moving the restaurant. I think he's trying to grab as much money as possible before I go. Plus, he's giving me grief over the vault. He won't let you take it with you? Are you kidding? It weighs almost 100 tons, and I don't need it. But the lease says I have to remove it, and that I also have to restore the building to what it was before there was a vault. That would cost a fortune. The butthole lord says if I leave the vault behind when I move, he'll sue. "Send your lease up to my office and let me look it over," I said. I finished my lunch, and when I got back to my office, the lease was waiting for me. It was just as bad as the restaurant owner said. The lease was renewal of a renewal of an assignment of renewal. The original documents dating back to the shortly after World War II, when a bank first leased the place and the vault was installed. Somehow, the landlord had suckered the restaurant into taking over a lease that left him liable to remove a bank vault at the end of the term. No big deal, I thought. The restaurant can default, and all the landlord can do is sue a shell company. But when I got to the last page of the lease, there was a guarantee clause. The restaurant owner had personally guaranteed the lease, and he was on the hook for removing a vault weighing 100 tons and then fixing the place up. It would cost a fortune. The case was hopeless, of course. That was obvious right away. But then I thought about the butthole landlord with his demands and his threats and his rent hikes, and I asked my brain to do me a solid, which it promptly did. I picked up the phone and called the restaurant owner. "I'm hacked, right? You're calling me to say there is no way out. That's what my commercial lawyer already said. But I just thought I'd ask. I can save you, but it's gonna cost." "How much?" $5,000 in legals and another G-note for the agent. "Agent? What kind of agent?" "Real estate. Send up a check, certified, and leave the rest to me." The check hit my desk in less than an hour. I went to Aaron's office. "I need a real estate agent," I said. "You buying a house?" Nope. Selling a house? Nope. By this point, I'd been sharing space with Aaron for almost 5 years, and he knew me pretty well. "You're putting one of your stunts again?" he asked. "Yep, but nothing that will get you into trouble." "I know a guy." Aaron knew all kinds of guys, and that's one of the reasons he eventually got disbarred. But he knew a guy, and he gave me the agent's name and number, and the next day I paid the agent a visit. I told him what I needed, and we agreed to the terms. I gave him some papers and the cash for his fee. A few days later, I was again in the vault for lunch. The owner saw me walk in and greeted me himself. "The landlord's here," he said. "Why?" "For lunch, and to be a butthole. Let's sit in the vault room so I don't have to look at his face." He took me to the vault room, and with the door almost completely closed, we had a consultation while we ate pasta and drank adult grape juice. "We're making demand on the landlord," I said, munching on spaghetti carbonara. "Demand? What are we demanding?" I pulled the document out of my briefcase and passed it to him while I sipped my adult grape juice. "We're demanding that the butthole landlord release all the restaurant equipment, all the fixtures, the ovens, the freezers, the ventilation, everything you need to run a restaurant. The lease exempts all that stuff. He cannot stop me taking what I want. The only thing that matters is the vault. And of course I don't want that." I shook my head. "You need the vault," I said, "and we are demanding that he release the bank vault as well. We're insisting that he let you take it out within 7 business days. You think you can beat the landlord with reverse psychology? You think if you treat him like a 2-year-old, you can manipulate him into doing what you want? We'll find out soon enough. He's had the demand for a couple of days now." The restaurant owner dropped his glass and it shattered on the marble floor. "You already gave it to him?" the restaurant owner said. He got up, swung open the vault door, and called for the waiter to clean up the mess. "Let's see what the landlord has to say," I told him, and we walked over to the landlord's table. The landlord was a big, beefy man with a big appetite. He sat alone, eating wolfishly and with his hands. "My client needs an answer today," I said. The landlord looked up at me as he chewed noisily. "I'm the vault's lawyer," I said. "I gave you a demand the other day. My client needs an answer right now. He needs the vault for a new place, and he's got to make arrangements." "Your client can forget about the bank vault," he said, wiping his massive greasy hands on already soiled napkin. "But you cannot do that," I said. My shock was fiend, but the restaurant owner jaw dropped for real. The landlord laughed at us. "I am the landlord. I can do what I want." "Well, I'm gonna need that in writing, because my client might sue," I said. "Sue all you like," the landlord told me. "Sue till you're blue in the face." He told me that I'd have a formal response by day's end, and then he told me to go away and let him finish his lunch. When the letter arrived from the landlord claiming ownership of the bank vault, I brought it downstairs and showed it to my client. "How the heck did you do that?" "Trade secret," I said. The following month, the restaurant moved out and the place was empty. And that was too bad, because I had always liked eating at the vault. Now the restaurant was in a new location 20 minutes away. They called the new place the Vault. They'd preserved the vibe of the old place. It was very similar, except they did not have the bank vault. The bank vault, all 100 tons of it, was where it had always been, in the basement of the building where I rented space. I showed up for work a little after that, and Aaron collared me. "The landlord's looking for you," he said. "Oh yeah? What about?" "He's really angry. He said his deal fell through." "Deal?" "He was supposed to rent the place downstairs to a new tenant, a bank or a credit union or something like that. They were supposed to come in to sign a lease, but they didn't show up." "And what's that got to do with me?" I said to Aaron, and I said the same thing again to the landlord when he managed to track me down a couple of days later. "I know you were behind this," he said, his jaws quivering. "I know it was you. That offer from the agent, it was all bullcrap. Just a trick to make me keep the vault, so that your client could sneak out of the place and leave that effing bank vault behind. I'm gonna sue. Well, if you're looking for a console, I think I'm going to have to declare a conflict. I'm gonna sue the restaurant and that agent, and I'm gonna sue you, he stormed off. But the landlord didn't sue. Of course he didn't. He didn't have a contract to sue on, only a vague letter of intent that I drafted, enough to hook a greedy landlord who was used to having his way. The offer he'd received was non-binding, incapable of acceptance without signing a formal lease, which of course never got signed. When I left Aaron's place a year later, the downstairs was still unoccupied, with a sad "for rent" sign sitting in the window, starting to look faded. I think this is my favorite ever story from r/prorevenge. What do you guys think? Did you love it? I loved it. What about you? Am I the butthole for refusing to pay for my girlfriend's plane ticket after she decided to stay longer on her trip without me? So, here's the deal. My girlfriend of 2 years and I planned a 2-week vacation to Italy. I paid for the flights, hotels, everything. Because I make more than she does and I wanted it to be a stress-free trip for both of us. Everything was great until the last day when she tells me that she wants to stay longer to find herself and think about our relationship without me. She didn't discuss this with me beforehand, so it completely blindsided me. I was hurt and I told her that if she feels she needs time alone, then she should also be independent financially during this extension of her trip. I said I wouldn't be paying for her new ticket whenever she decides to come back. Now she's upset, calling me unsupportive and selfish. And some of our friends are saying I'm being butthole because I left her stranded in a foreign country without financial help. So, Reddit, am I the butthole for refusing to pay for her new plane ticket home after she chose to extend her trip without any heads up? So, here's the update. We are both in America now and she's packing her stuff to go stay with her family for a bit, until she can find a new place. Soon after I posted, it was time to go to the airport, so I did, without her. I'm one of those people who arrives really early because I never think I'll get to the gate in time because everything that could go wrong probably would go wrong. It never does, but especially with how I was feeling my luck was going, I didn't want to push it. I was there for about an hour by myself, mulling things over and talking to my mom. I looked at a couple responses to this post, but I didn't trust that I wouldn't lose it if I started responding, and I definitely didn't want to burst into tears while I was in the airport. As I was talking to my mom, my girlfriend showed up. I guess she thought I was bluffing, but had a rude awakening when the hotel staff kicked her out of the room because I'd only paid through that day. I took no small amount of satisfaction in this. She's been so concerned about the plane ticket that she didn't even stop to think about where she was going to stay. As many of you guessed, she met someone while we were in Italy. She was quick to tell me that it was just a physical attraction and that they hadn't done anything, but she had his Instagram and was wanting to see if it'd go anywhere. I guess that's what I get for not feeling well and wanted to stay in one night while she went out to explore. Obviously, I told her things were done between us. Even though she tried to make it sound like nothing had happened, the fact was I couldn't feel like I could trust her when she said that, and I don't really want to be with someone who feels like it's okay to still keep her options open when she's been in a monogamous relationship for the past 2 years. The flight home was awkward as heck, and she tried really hard to give another pitch why we should stay together on the drive home from the airport. I think as we got closer to home, reality started setting in, and she realized she'd just thrown a lot away. So yeah, I'm jet-lagged and physically and emotionally exhausted. I'm just kind of numb at this point. Oh wow, she explored alright, didn't she? Well, obviously, OP is not the butthole, but if you think differently, let me know in the comments. I would love to discuss it with you. Am I the butthole for telling my father? I do know about that. I am a wildlife biologist. I have a master's degree in wildlife conservation and I am hoping to go for my doctorate soon. I have worked in this field since I was 16 and I am very passionate about it. When visiting my family recently for Easter, my mom asked me to tell the family a little bit about work. I was very excited to talk about my current research. Here's where the issue comes in though. My father would respond to almost everything I said with, I don't know about that. At first, I tried to ignore it, but it just didn't stop. Eventually, I responded, well, I do, given the 2 degrees and all. I responded in a light, playful tone, but he did not take it well at all. He immediately accused me of being disrespectful. I responded, I'm sorry, but it's disrespectful of you to insinuate that you know more than I do about my field. Dinner got pretty quiet after that. I finished the meal, helped with the dishes, and said goodbye before leaving. But on the ride home, I got a phone call from my mother asking me why I felt the need to aggravate my father and why I had to talk back. I am a 28-year-old professional. This feels insane to me. Am I the butthole? No, you're not the butthole. But, guys, what do you think? Butthole? Not butthole? The next story is by Acrobatic Maine, 2106. Am I the butthole for blowing up on my husband's friend after her wife passed away? My husband, Ian, is close friends with a woman named Jenna. They've been friends for a long time before Ian and I got together, so I know her fairly well too, but we really have nothing in common and we're not exactly friends. Jenna's wife Laura, very sadly and somewhat suddenly, passed in early March. She was terminally ill but responding to treatment very well and was expected to survive another 2 to 5 years. She's been leaning on Ian heavily for support, which I understand, but she's been at our house every single day since and even sleeping in our guest room most nights because she doesn't want to be home alone, which would be okay, except she's getting more and more passive-aggressive towards me and weirdly territorial of Ian. I've reminded myself that I don't think I could stand to see a happy couple for months if I lost Ian and to be patient. It's not personal. My birthday was on Sunday. I got home Saturday after a morning out and Jenna was there. I was making small talk when I asked Ian what time he made dinner reservations for the next day. Jenna inserted herself right here and asked Ian if he was going to be out the next day, and he said yes. She started panicking and saying that he couldn't and she wasn't ready to spend an evening alone. I was going to tell her that she could still hang out here while we were gone, and she looked at me and said, "Don't you have any effing friends you can go with?" And I just blew the F up. Don't you have any other effing friends you can go bother? And so on. She called me selfish for monopolizing my husband, and I had enough. And I told her to get the F out of my house and not to come back, ever. Ian had been trying to calm things down between us, but it spiraled out of control fast. And he ended up escorting Jenna out and telling her that he'd come visit her in a few days, but he would be backing my decision because of how she spoke to me. I was happy of his support and I still am, but it's been a few days and I just feel bad all around about it. I should have been more understanding of her, but I also feel like she should treat me more respectfully, and I am not really sure if I overreacted. Guys, what do you think? Is OP a butthole? I think no, because I understand that Jenna was grieving, but how she was looking at the future? Was she planning to live at her house forever? The next story is by SDD Roma AITA. Am I the butthole for flipping out on my fiancé after her daughter almost got me arrested? I got engaged to my fiancé about 3 months ago. We've been dating for almost 3 years. She had 2 kids from a previous relationship, 15 and 12. Their dad is involved in their lives, and for the most part, the adults all co-parent and communicate well. I get along really well with the 12-year-old, but I have always struggled to build a relationship with my soon-to-be stepdaughter, Riley. She has made it very clear to me, my fiancé, and their bio dad that she doesn't view me as a parent and doesn't want me to try and be a father to her, because she already has one. A few days ago, my fiancé sent me a text asking if I could pick up Riley from school because she had something come up at work that was going to keep her late. My fiancé usually picks up Riley once a week and brings her to a chiropractic appointment to help with a sports injury Riley got. She told me she could call the school and let them know that I would be picking Riley up because I wasn't on the approved pickup list yet. However, when I got to Riley's school, it quickly became apparent that my fiancé forgot to call the school. The school has locked doors that required you to have a code to be buzzed in by the office. I buzzed into the office and let them know I was there to pick up Riley and that my fiancé should have called to let them know. They didn't know anything about it. I was left waiting outside for 5 to 10 minutes while they figured it out. I tried calling and texting my fiancé, but she didn't answer. Then the school resource officer, an actual uniformed cop, came out and told me that I would have to leave and that if I refused, then he would arrest me for trespassing. I tried talking to him, but he just kept saying I was not authorized to be on school property and that I had to leave. I had no choice but to leave without Riley. Finally, an hour later, my fiancé called me back. I explained what happened and she apologized for forgetting to call the school because she got distracted with work. She told me she would figure it out and meet me at home. When she and Riley got home, Riley went straight to her room. My fiancé sat me down and told me that Riley had lied to the school office and told them that she didn't know who I was and had never seen me before. She thought it would be funny. She told me she explained to Riley how dangerous that was and was going to work with Riley's dad to figure out a punishment. Needless to say, I did not take the news well. I admit I did raise my voice to her. I didn't yell, but I did get louder than I usually talk. She told me to calm down and I told her that I won't calm down because her daughter almost got me arrested because she thought it would be funny. I told her that she's just as responsible for this as Riley is because she didn't call the school and it put me in a position where I looked like I was a creep. My fiancé thinks I am overreacting and that I need to let her and Riley's dad handle this. Guys, what do you think? Because I think, well, first of all, not the butthole, but second of all, OP is not landlord or a roommate to Riley, so I think he deserves to have a talk with her. As for the punishment, I think it is up to her parents, but the bare minimum that the OP deserves is to have a proper talk with Riley. Am I the butthole for refusing to wear a bra when my roomie's boyfriend stays over? I don't wear a bra at home. I go to college, then library, and then work, then gym. I am out at 7 a.m. and back at 10 p.m. Usually, I take a quick shower when I get home, then make a snack and just relax for an hour before bedtime. On weekends, I barely leave the apartment beside the occasional outing with friends or colleagues. My roommate and I are very close, but now she has been biting my head off about me not wearing a bra at home. I was confused. Then she explained that it was about her boyfriend. I laughed in her face and told her to put a bra on his eyes instead. She got very upset, but I told her that I wasn't interested in her boyfriend, not in the slightest. She got offended and said that he wasn't interested in me either. So I said, then why are we arguing? It is only an issue if we were interested in each other. Tell him next time he sees me braless, he can pretend that I'm a wall. According to her, it wasn't about interest, but being invasive, and he felt uncomfortable. Would you think that it was fine if he showed his D? I called her stupid because it was my home. I wouldn't go braless in his home, and if he chose to go naked in his home, the only right I have is to get the heck out of there. She called me the butthole. Am I? No, you're not. He's not wearing a bra, then why should you? You're at your own home, so he can shut up. My husband is in love with his student, and I have no effing idea what to do. My husband and I, both 35 right now, met in college. We fell in love and got married 8 years back. I gave birth to our daughter in 2020. My husband is a professor at this med school, he's a doctor himself. My friend Sarah also works in the same college and he's in the same department as my husband. A few months back, in December, Sarah took me out for lunch and told me that she suspected something going on between my husband and his med student, who is 25. She claimed she had seen both of them give yearning looks to each other. She said that she's known my husband for so long and she'd never seen him talk to any other woman like this. And he'd been so aloof around women all these years But it's just different with this one girl. In that moment, I had laughed in her face. I remember telling her that she's jumping to conclusions based on these supported yarning looks. That's why I didn't tell you before, she said. I was confused too. It's not like he goes out of his way to talk to her, but whenever they do talk, it's like watching a slow burn romance movie. She looks at him like he's Brad Pitt, and he looks at her the way he used to look at you. I remember the exact words because they stung. Internally, I was breaking down. Externally, I just smiled and told her that she's probably overthinking. That night, I casually mentioned this to my husband. I was laughing at the absurdity, and I expected him to join in and deny the wild possibility that he's in love with a student. But he didn't. Instead, he looked at me all teary-eyed and said, "I'm sorry. I can't get her out of my mind. I have tried, trust me. I should have told you sooner, but I thought I could save our relationship. I really wanted to." I asked him if he'd cheated on me. He said no. He said he didn't even talk to her, nor did they have any contact outside of college, and that he completely understood how morally depraved it is to try and pursue a relationship with a student. She wrote him a letter about a year back, confessing her love for him, and he had told her that, even though he was into her, nothing would come out of it. Apparently, that was when the yearning looks had started. I honestly don't remember how I reacted then. I think I just started packing and came to live with my parents along with my daughter. I've been living with my parents since then. Half of me wanted him to come and beg for forgiveness, but he never did. He comes by sometimes to spend time with our daughter, but that's it. He never talks about the elephant in the room, nor do I bring it up. I keep checking that girl's social media. She's insanely beautiful, almost doll-like, and intelligent. I can't help but think that someone like him should be with someone like her. He's always been very good-looking, and I'm more of a plain Jane. She's the Meredith to his Derek. I don't know what to do. What do I even tell people? I don't even know who I am without him. Some part of me still wants him to come back. And there is an update. I have decided to talk to him. I know I've been avoiding this since months, but after reading all the responses, I feel it's time I rip that band-aid out. I'm going over to his house. I'll update on what happens. And since then, there was no update, but if there is, I will update you immediately. My girlfriend wants 5 kids. I don't. Is there a way to get past this? I've been seeing my girlfriend for the past 6 months, and we've gotten pretty serious pretty fast. When we first started dating, she asked if I wanted kids, and I told her that I do want kids, but I'm also okay if I never end up having them. She agreed with that, but we didn't get into specific numbers of children. Recently, the topic came up again, and she said that she wants to have 5 children. She was an only child and says she wants her children to be surrounded by other kids. This caught me by surprise, as I had kind of assumed, due to her age, she's 36, that 1 or 2 children would be pushing it. She told me that she wouldn't work, so she would have time for the kids, and I told her I just don't see being feasible to support 7 people on just my salary in a high cost of living area. She said people just make it work when they have kids, and I tried to explain to her that there is no magic button to make a single salary go further. It's also just not something I want. I can't see myself having enough time or energy for 5 children. On top of that, there is the health risks of multiple late pregnancies. She seemed to understand when I told her that this would be a deal breaker for me. She said she didn't want to get stuck on a hypothetical. But yesterday, she sent me a mom influencer video about how a 5-child household is supposedly easier than a 1-child household because the kids entertain themselves. What? I got upset at this because it seems like she can't see the obvious pressure that it would put on me to provide for that many children. It seems bizarre to me to fixate on having a large family at this stage of her life. After she sent the video, we had an argument in which I reiterated that it was a deal breaker. Other than this, I enjoy spending time with her, and I feel a lot of love between us. I just can't seem to understand where she's coming from, and I don't know how to approach what I feel is an unrealistic daydream of a large family. It also seems like a waste to break up over what seems to me to be an impossible hypothetical. Is there a way to move past this? How do I approach this topic when we discuss it? Yes, just say, hey, I really don't want to have 5 kids. Is it a deal breaker for you? Because it is for me. My boyfriend filmed us without my consent. So, I've been dating my boyfriend for 8 months. I am 22. He is 29. Around 2 months into our relationship, he brought up filming us during adult time. I immediately shut it down and said that it wasn't my type of thing. He joked and said, well, it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission. And I told him if he did that, he'd be single. Fast forward to this past weekend, it was my birthday, I have endometriosis and was having a 2-week-long flare-up, and due to that wasn't having much adult time. But I started feeling better this past weekend. He took me out of town to the mountains and we had a beautiful time. While we were there, he brought up how he wanted to film us again and it would be so hot. I told him that I wasn't too sure about that. Later that night, he brought it back up and I told him again that I really don't know about that. But I ended up telling him I was comfortable with him filming me, giving him mouth adult time. The next time we have adult time. We had adult time the next day and I made a joke after we finished. I said, you didn't get your video. And we both laughed it off. Yesterday night, we had adult time again, but afterwards, he was looking at his phone grinning. I questioned him on it, and he finally tossed me his phone to reveal a video of us during adult time that he had just recorded. I immediately got upset and said that he never asked my permission. He deleted it and cleared his recently deleted. He profusely apologized and said he misunderstood me when I joked about how he never got a video this past time. I told him he knew better, and we had discussed this already. He apologized again and promised to never take another. I don't know how to feel. He asked me if this was a relationship ender, and while I don't want it to be, I feel like I cannot trust him. Am I overreacting? He's been such a great boyfriend besides this. Yeah, great guy. Well, you said that if he would do that, it would be a relationship ender for you, so dump his butt. Am I dating an incompetent man? My boyfriend argues that he does house chores the same amount as me, if not more. I've been with my boyfriend for over 3 years and we've owned a house and lived together for just over 1 year. It first came around about the start of us living together when I became unemployed that I feel like I was doing everything. Not just the house chores, but cleaning after him as well. We have had an argument that I should do more cleaning as I'm unemployed. I thought maybe he'd step it up once I had a job. Fast forward nearly a year later and we're still having that argument. I work half an hour longer than him every day, plus I have an hour and a half commute and wake up an hour earlier than him. He never touches the washing. His mom also comes in and does chores for us without asking, which include pots, laundry and tidying up. And his mom washes his work clothes and takes that upon herself, probably because she knows he wouldn't be as good at doing it. He agrees he doesn't do it either. I cook more and oftentimes I try to make it healthy as possible. Recently, I've been too tired or busy to cook, so it's been a frozen food kind of meal. And also not being hungry, so I let him help himself. He occasionally cooks us burgers or taco boats, but that's about it. His idea of dinner is something quick like oven food, and he said to me in the past that there is nothing wrong with it and he'd have that every day because he hates cooking. He leaves a mess and often doesn't put things away, so mess piles up. Sometimes I have done the same just to show him how it is, but then I end up cleaning it, or his mom does because she's here every morning and takes him to and from work. He only has the imperative to clean the house when things get really bad and messy and dirty. I clean the cat's litter tray all the time and he does it rarely. Same with the dog's poop outside. Again, his mom does it more than he does with this, even though they're not her pets. I know he doesn't do his litter tray because he usually leaves it a mess afterwards. And also the cat's poo builds up. I also have the mental load for responsibilities we need to do for the house, or other things. He's okay with this sometimes, especially with finance stuff and bills, but sometimes I think I'm stuck to worry about it. But this one is not as bad, I just think I'm a stress head. Pet care is also my responsibility. I'm always thinking I need to wash the dog, moisturize her paws, give her medication, clean the cat's clothes, etc. And he wonders why when he begs and nags me for adult time, I don't want it. I'm tired and I have my own things I want to do too, but I feel like I'm constantly tidying up after him and still doing the chores. He says he tidies up and does stuff the same, if not more than me. He thinks cleaning the kitchen countertops and moving stuff he left out is good enough. And what's worse is I dated an immature man before for 2 years when I was 17, and I didn't even live with him. I told myself I wouldn't date an immature man again, and at first he seemed mature, energetic about life. He worked out. Before he met me, he lost like 7 stone after he had a depression episode, and was passionate about things that inspired me. Now I wonder where that guy's gone, or if it was just a facade. The thought of having a baby with him and him being like this makes me sick. We have a mortgage together, so it's not as easy to get out before you all shout, "Break up with him!" What do I do? And how do I prove to him I do it more than him so he will finally realize? I want to show him the consequences in a harsh way. Well, you can literally write down what you have done and compare it to what he has done. Maybe that will work. Also, you can ask his mom not to come and do his chores so he wouldn't have this magic cleaning fairy. My girlfriend lied to me and I cannot trust her anymore. My girlfriend and I have been dating for a year. However, when we were in the talking stage, she said she's going on a last-minute trip to Mexico with her mother, who is dealing with cancer. I thought it was wholesome and wished her well on their trip. After some time, I was hanging with friends who were curious to see what my girlfriend looked like. So I looked at her Instagram profile and noticed she was tagged in a photo of some guy in Mexico, uploaded around the same time my girlfriend was there. I want to make it clear she was not my girlfriend during this time, but she was someone I was close to becoming official with, so much so she said she wouldn't want me sleeping with other women. But at the time, she was not ready yet. She wanted to become official, but school, work, and family drama made it difficult for her. So the photo is just of that guy posing with a monument in the background, but my girlfriend was tagged on it, clearly indicating she was the one who took the photo. I called her and asked what's the story with this post. She said he's an old college friend and she's bumped into him while she was with her mom. I wanted to believe her, but something was telling me she's lying. I mean, I thought who would use their mother's cancer as a lie, right? Months later, I ignored this weird thought and we became official. I finally met her mother, we had a nice dinner at my girlfriend's house, talked about life and traveling, and I brought up Mexico. I asked the mother if she enjoyed their time over there, and the mother was confused and said my girlfriend actually went alone. I promise you guys, I tried everything in my power to not blow up in front of this kind of woman, so I just looked at my girlfriend and said, "Oh really?" sarcastically. The vibe clearly became quiet and awkward. The mother thanked me for a great time and went to bed. I just wanted to leave and go home without saying anything. I was beyond pissed. My girlfriend followed me, she was shaking, clearly embarrassed of the situation, and asked if I'm okay, and it led to an argument outside her building. She argues that it was the past and she and I weren't officially together, but my point was simply, why lie about it then? Why become a hypocrite and tell me you wouldn't want me to sleep with other people while you were doing just that? She later admitted she messed up and she would never lie to me again. I gave her another shot. It's a year later, everything is going well. But I cannot help but feel I cannot genuinely trust her anymore. She gets easily upset and annoyed when I bring up the past, which I rarely ever do. I'm also 99% sure she has lied about not having an adult time before me, and I'm the one with whom she did it for the first time. In a few months, she will be going to Europe for her masters, which I am excited for, but I have PTSD from the lie. She will be gone for 2 months, and I'm worried she will do something behind my back. I'm just not sure what to do anymore. What would you guys do? Am I overreacting? Yes, you are. Such a butthole. Oh my god. If I would be that girl, I would run and never look back. She already explained herself and there is nothing she can do about it anymore. So if you're not ready to go past this, break up. I messed up and I ruined my marriage. I'm not looking for pity or understanding here. I know I'm not getting it. Me and my ex-wife have a 14-month-old son. After he was born, our marriage fell apart. She said I wasn't pulling my weight with childcare and chores, but at the same time, she expected me to know what to do without her telling me. It was bad. We argued a lot, and I ended up telling her that her life would be harder without me. She got really quiet, and I thought that was the end of the argument. It made things fall apart, and we are getting divorced. We are living separately, each got a new apartment. As for our son, the law in our state, Kentucky, is that 50-50 is the default for custody. It is automatic unless one parent proves neglect on the part of the other. We don't have that, so on the advice of both of our lawyers, we are splitting time and doing alternating weeks since we separated. We usually switch on Mondays with the daycare pickup and drop off. I knew being a single parent wasn't easy, but I didn't really know until now. This is where I realize how badly I messed up because I am drowning. The weeks I have my son, I don't get anything done and I can barely even function at work because I am so exhausted. I spend the whole week I don't have him catching up and I cannot even get everything done. My apartment is a mess and I can hardly keep up with errands and chores. It sucks. I realize I messed up because I thought since I was having a hard time, my wife would be too, and we could call off the divorce and work on things. But she doesn't want to. She says her life is easier without me, and she's the opposite of me and can apparently keep up with everything fine. She says she isn't exhausted anymore and realized it's easier having one person to take care of instead of two. I know I messed up and should have been a better husband. I can't even ask for less time with my son because I cannot afford the child support. Right now, neither of us has any because of 50-50 and equal income. But if we go all 50-50, my lawyer says the person with less time will get child support. I hate myself for messing up so much. Obviously, this is a throwaway account. What do I do? Well, at this point, I guess you can ask your ex-wife for a piece of advice. How does she manage it? I accidentally insulted my partner and she has remained cold ever since. And she wears sweats all the time now. We have been a couple for 7 years. I only now realize we both view my partner very differently. From my perspective, she's never been interested in fashion at all. She always wears black jeans, she has dozens of black tops, she doesn't wear makeup, doesn't get her nails done, only does root touch-ups. And I love her and I don't care about this at all. From her perspective, apparently, she dresses elegantly and minimalistic. She says she's always wearing no makeup. Makeup? I guess she means mascara, not sure. She says she pays at the salon every month to color her hair or it would be gray. The reason this all came up is that we met up with friends and one of the women is very fashionable, always done up. I had mentioned in passing to my partner that I loved that she wore vibrant colors. My partner had said she personally isn't a fan of bright colors and in the past when she has tried to wear them, she doesn't like how it looks. I told her if I was a beautiful woman, I'd wear bright colors for attention. And that's probably why our friend does it. Anyway, this was the gist of the conversation. If my partner was getting upset, I was not picking up on that. I honestly don't even recall what I was saying that made her mad, but she ended up annoyed with something. I was truly confused. But we ended up in the argument. I told her that based on how she looks, I had no idea she cared about her looks or fashion. She was getting really angry at me, which tends to make me mad too, so I told her that if she cares that much, to my surprise, she should present herself better. She insisted I tell her what I meant, And so I told her that she dresses boring and it makes you look old and dumpy. I told her I don't care at all, but since she appears to, she should try to dress more fashionable. This was 3 weeks ago and she was very angry with me. Now she's not angry, but she's remained cold, and she now has taken to dressing in sweatpants and sweatshorts. She says she won't be dressing nice around me anymore, but I never thought she dressed nice in the first place. Obviously, I put my foot in my mouth and I have apologized. But she doesn't care. She says she won't forget what I said. I really just want her to drop this. Is this something that needs therapy? Or just time? Yeah, maybe you need therapy to understand what exactly you did wrong, 'cause you did. Am I wrong for canceling my order at this coffee shop? I was at this coffee shop and the cashier was really pretty. She had a cool anime tattoo also. I was gonna get some coffee and a donut and I said, "Hey, I like your tattoo. What's your favorite character from that anime?" She kept a straight face and she just said, "How can I help you?" I then said, "I really like anime too, and I just wanted to see what shows and characters you liked." She still showed no emotions and was like, "Sir, do you want anything?" I just said, "Actually, I did, but you made me change my mind. Bye." And I walked away. I didn't want coffee anymore after that. I was trying to be nice and get to know her, and she was acting like that. She was acting like a barista, which she was. Chill. I found out that my husband sleeps with his ex-wife from time to time to prevent her from dating. I just want to lie down in a fetal position and cry. We have been married for 2 years. 2 happy years. Until I stumbled upon an email from her said that she didn't want to do this anymore because she wanted to find love and meet other men. He answered that he loves her more than anything, even more than the children, they have 3, and that he would give her all the adult time she wanted. Then he went on about how it was safer for her not to let in strangers into her home. She said that she was done. He asked her to marry him. She told him that she didn't want him back as a husband. He said he loved her. Now I know why he refused to have shared custody with her and would rather pay $4,500 in child support instead, so she doesn't have time to date. I am so heartbroken. I feel like trash. Why is he doing this? Well, because apparently he is the butthole of the year. Divorce him and get therapy. Am I the butthole for accusing my wife of stopping for food on her way home? A few hours ago, my wife informed me that she was going to have to stay late at work. She's been incredibly busy lately, so I told her that I would cook dinner and have it ready when she got home. I have a few signature recipes that I can make in a pinch from memory. I decided to make rosemary lemon chicken with some canned green beans and bow tie pasta. The dinner was ready long before my wife got home, which I think shows a lot of commitment, but when my wife finally got home, she was only picking at her food. She was trying to tell me about her day, but the lack of food being consumed off her plate was extremely distracting to me. There are several fast food restaurants on the way home from her office, and it was becoming very apparent that she had stopped at one. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore and asked, "Where did you stop?" My wife seemed confused, so I clarified. I asked, "Where did you eat dinner?" My wife seemed surprised and angered by my question. She said that she had a hard day and her stress levels were suppressing her appetite. I couldn't help but laugh. This was a ridiculous excuse. It's Friday, which means that she won't need to worry about work for 3 more days. When I leave the office, I don't think at all about my workday, even if it was a bad one. I walked out to her car to look for fast food bags, but I didn't end up finding any. This was so upsetting to my wife that when I came back inside, she was yelling at me. If anyone should have been insulted, it was me. But she insisted that I was being a jackpot and refused to hear my point of view. I worked hard on this meal, and to have her pick at this was a slap in the face. She's barely said anything to me for a few hours, and I want this treatment to stop. She needs to stop taking out her work troubles on me and get better control of her emotions. I want my old wife, not a stressed out bully. I just don't know what more can I do. Am I the butthole? Yes, you are the butthole. Go apologize to your wife. Am I the butthole for refusing to reevaluate my relationship to appease my sister? I have been with my husband, Adam, for 14 years. Adam has a 15-year-old from a previous relationship, and we've got 2 children who are 8 and 2. My sister, who is 19, recently moved in with me. She's doing an apprenticeship, and my house is closer. My sister has always been the happiest person I know. She has ADHD, which my husband equates to her carefree nature. I wouldn't know. But it's like the moment my husband is home, she's an entirely different person. She's on edge, she's stressed and snappy, and she's never like that. My husband has made a few comments that he hopes she's not like that at work, and she's too old to be acting like a teenage still. My husband has autism, and there has been a few moments that do make me cringe, like when my sister gets home from shopping, he'll ask what she got him, where his hug is, and there has been a few instances of him eating her food or accidentally taking some of her money if she leaves it next to her bag. He's just impulsive. I have explained my sister should understand that he's impulsive. He apologized, saying he didn't realize it would be a big deal because they're family. I don't think these few instances warrant my sister being so tense. She's been complaining of recurring migraines, and I know she's been having them, as my stepdaughter tells me she hears my sister crying at night. My friends have said that I really need to reevaluate my relationship with my husband if I even like my sister. But the thing is, my sister hasn't even complained. These are just things that I've noticed, and I tend to overthink things. I spoke to her and she said she'd never involve herself in my relationship like that. My friends do believe I'm the butthole, my mother is on my side, but my father isn't. But he's never liked Adam. Am I the butthole? Yes, I think you are the butthole because you have to be sensitive on what is going on in your house. Am I the butthole for thinking my wife's discipline is too harsh? My wife and I have 4 kids. 13-year-old twins, 8-year-old and 4 months old. She had a postpartum depression with our last baby, and she often struggled in a sense of her not being able to turn her brain off. She's getting better, but she's still snappy at times. I currently work 12-hour overnight shifts 5 days a week, and she works 20 hours a week from home. Due to this, she has the kids constantly, and she's very, very touched out. Ever since she gave birth, our older 3 kids have been over the top clingy and seem to be reverting back to toddler stage. Like our daughter, one of the 13-year-old twins, earlier asked my wife how to plug in the microwave, or all of a sudden my 8-year-old is asking his mother to help him find clothes or tie his shoes for him again. It's a desperate cry for attention. We are all in therapy, both individual and family therapy, and the therapist is helping us work through it. But it seems to be getting worse. Like, we cannot even plan a family outing without the 3 older kids either gripping onto their mother or walking so close in front and behind her that they are tripping her and refuse to watch out when told. So it has absolutely been heck. But like I said, we are trying to work through this with therapy. Well, 2 weeks ago, my wife implicated a rule that no one was allowed to talk to her when she had her headphones in or when she's taking a shower. As I'm sure you guessed already, the kids were even bugging her endlessly during those times, and my wife stated she needs an effing break and silence and for people to stop hanging off her arm. She even snapped the other day saying, "Can none of you do anything for yourselves? No? Why don't I wipe your butts for you too while I'm at it?" Because our 13-year-old son asked her where his cup was instead of moving the coffee pot to look for himself, and then asked her at the same time to make him mac and cheese, despite knowing how, because yours tastes better. She was in the middle of feeding the baby, so she snapped. Anyways, now no one is allowed to bug her under any circumstances when she's showering or when she has headphones in. maybe once a week for the headphones, showering every other day for maybe 10 minutes. So it's not a huge ask. Anyways, I get a text from my son earlier saying Mom is grounding us and taking our stuff away for a week. And then zero response. I go home about an hour later and my wife is livid. All the kids' electronics are piled on the counter and all the kids are in their bedrooms with the door shut. I asked what happened and she said she went to take a shower and the kids came in 5 times in a 10-minute period, so she grounded them from everything for a week and sent them to their rooms. I feel she's being too harsh because I know they just want her attention. Now she's pissed at me for making her feel bad for needing an effing minute to herself. Am I the butthole? Yes, you are. Go talk to your wife. She is a saint. Am I the butthole for prioritizing a friend over my pregnant wife? My wife and I got married last summer. She's currently 7 months pregnant with our first child. She had an appointment with her OBGYN 2 weeks ago to address some complications with the pregnancy. The doctor was not overly concerned and confirmed that both my wife and the baby are healthy. But they did recommend her starting her maternity leave early and taking as much bed rest as possible. A few days after that appointment, my best friend's fiancé passed away in a car accident. My friend Brian and I have been friends since we were 3. We lived on the same street growing up. He was a groomsman in my wedding and he asked me to be one for him as well. Their wedding was supposed to be this summer. Brian and I live about an hour away from each other now, so we don't see each other as often. Usually, only a few times a year on special occasions. But as soon as I got the news about his fiancée, I immediately drove to be with him. I've been juggling helping Brian with everything I can while also taking care of my wife and everything she needs. On top of that, I am still working full-time. I've driven to Brian's house a few nights after work just to hang out with him and spent one night there last weekend to help him with some things. His fiancée's funeral is scheduled for the next week, so I've been helping him with that as much as I can as well. A couple nights ago, I told my wife that I planned on driving down to Brian's one night this week just to hang out and keep him company. This started an argument between us because my wife feels like I am prioritizing Brian too much and neglecting her. She said that she needs me at home to help her because she doesn't want to go against doctor's orders and try to do too much. She told me that her and the baby need to be my number one priority right now, not Brian. I told her that I am trying to juggle everything and I understand she needs my help, but Brian is at the lowest point in his life and I need to be there for him. She told me I don't need to be there for him. I am making a choice to be there for him instead of being at home taking care of her needs. I told her I am just trying to get Brian through the funeral and then I will make sure that I am more attentive to things at home. She told me that Brian has other friends and family that can be there for him and that I am spending too much time with him. She said that the health of her and the baby should be more important to me than anything else right now, including Brian, and that she needs me at home as much as possible. I told her she was being unreasonable and that I am not going to abandon my best friend in his darkest days. She's now giving me the silent treatment unless she needs something from me. If I try to talk with her, she will make a comment about me talking to Brian instead, since he's more important to me. I understand she's stressed and hormonal, but she's never been this outright mean about anything. Am I wrong here? Yes. Imagine being on the latest stages of pregnancy and then your husband disappears. Lovely. Am I the butthole for not helping to defend my group project partner against our professor who wants to fail her for not contributing? I am in a computer science course for college on operating systems. I was assigned this random group project partner and we were working on a project for most of the semester. We had decided to organize the project in a way that she would do core parts and I would do plug-in modules that depend on her core. However, since she did her parts in a convoluted way, it was hard for me to understand it, and when I couldn't get it to work, she had to do them as well. We got into an argument and she claimed it wasn't convoluted. I then paid a tutor who advised me and said he could help, but that the project would be easier to do in Rust, she agreed to redo the project in Rust if I converted everything we had so far myself, and she'd help out with the last part. We got permission from the prof to do it in Rust instead. The tutor then helped me convert her code to Rust, which counted as my part. However, when it finally came to doing the last part, she said she had no time to work with me on it, as she did not know Rust well enough and had some ballet competition the weekend of the deadline. She offered to finish it in the C++ version, but I told her it's okay. I then got it done with the help of the tutor and submitted the project. Since the Rust code was all written by me, in the statement of contribution, I had to state that I did all the code and she contributed to the design process and report. However, the professor took that as her not contributing, as only the code is actually graded, and decided to give her a 0 on the project, which would lead to her failing the class as it is 70% of the grade. She now wants me to come talk to the professor with her and is upset at me for refusing. The way I see it, it is not really my problem, and I want to face any trouble, as she did already tell the professor that she had done the older C++ code we didn't submit. Am I the butthole here? She's pretty upset at me and seems to blame me when it is the professor's decision. All the comments are saying that the OP is a butthole, but I don't think so. Because he gave the girl every chance to contribute, and it's not like he did anything behind her back. So I say not a butthole. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel. You can also watch that awesome video or this awesome playlist. See you next time!